Jon Jones versus Israel Adesanya could well be on the horizon for a super fight to make in 2021. Remember, not too long ago, Israel Adesanya was on the come-up, hadn't really won the title yet or defended it too many times, but was calling his shot to eventually take on Jon Jones in 2021 when he prepared himself and first got through the middleweight division. It seems as though Israel Adesanya has got through the middleweight division right now. I know the winner of Whittaker versus Cannonier is going to have something to say about that, but I'm sure we can all agree that at some point in 2021, the Jon Jones versus Israel Adesanya match has a very high likelihood to happen. And I'm looking forward to it if it does happen, because it's a great fight. Jon Jones vacated the light heavyweight title, currently has his eyes set on heavyweight. I feel like that's his first stop. I think that might be his first stop right now. I can see two big money fights in Jon Jones' future, and that's the winner of Miocic versus Ngannou, or coming back down and taking on Israel Adesanya by maybe Israel Adesanya, or Jon Jones maybe goes through Jan Blachowicz first. That's always something we can talk about. Jon Jones said, hope you guys don't mind if I dip back in and get my title back. He could go in and fight Jan Blachowicz, which is a good style matchup for him, even though Jan Blachowicz is dangerous right now and not a good risk-reward ratio for Jon Jones' legacy and career right now, because Jan Blachowicz has shown time and time again that legendary push bar can come into effect in a major way and spoil some big fights. But still, Jon Jones might come back down, beat Jan Blachowicz, or try and beat Jan Blachowicz, get through him, and then look for the Israel Adesanya unification bout with Adesanya coming up from middleweight. That would be a good matchup. Jon Jones is no stranger to welcoming middleweights up to the light heavyweight division. He did it for about 5 fucking years. But still, it's a good matchup, and a really good matchup. And I think the people that say, and last year it was very different. The opinion on this fight last year is almost, it's night and day right now, okay? Because last year, when Israel Adesanya had beaten Kelvin Gastelum, say, if you told me who wins between Jon Jones and Israel Adesanya, I would have laughed in your face. I would have laughed in your face. I really would have, and I would have disrespected you. And I said, why would you ask me such a stupid question? Of course Jon Jones wins. Look what fat bantamweight Kelvin Gastelum did to Israel Adesanya. But recently, Israel Adesanya has got this thunderous power that he hasn't shown before in his career, and he's starting to light people up, and maybe he's just found his rhythm, found his groove. Maybe there's some other stuff, but still, I'm not going to get into that. We're going to try and coexist, because people hate when I bring it up. But he's really come into his own recently, built himself into the middleweight division. If you look at the size of him before in the fights with Tavares, even the Anderson Silva fight that he had, and even the Kelvin Gastelum one, he's got a little bit bulkier right now, especially in his pectoral area, but that's okay. Very normal for a man in his mid-30s to grow a breast. Yeah, he's just really good right now. He's really good, and it's a different story, but also his performances. Let's just get off of the whole controversy with the man in his 30s growing a female breast. Let's talk about this, though. He's very dangerous, and if Jon Jones wants to fight him right now, it's actually a very close fight. And as I said before, Kelvin Gastelum fight area of Israel Adesanya's career, this was not in the conversations for me, and even Israel Adesanya knew it wasn't in the conversations for him, which actually takes a lot of honesty. A lot of people shit on Adesanya for saying, I'll fight you next year. In 2021, or in 2 years in 2021, because it sounded a lot like boxing, and MMA fighters, when they hear anything that sounds, or MMA fans, when they hear anything that sounds like boxing, they tend to sort of naturally cringe back and avoid it and want it not to happen, because as soon as they start hearing boxing language, they see the end of their sport. But Israel Adesanya was very honest with himself, like, listen, I'm going to improve rapidly here, which he has done. And I'm going to see if I can beat Jon Jones in 2021. And by the time of 2021, listen, if Whittaker Cannonier winner goes in there and loses to Adesanya and he's even that much bit better, he might have a great chance. But I'm going to go off of what we know right now. We know that Kelvin Gastelum could take down Israel Adesanya. That's what we know, okay? And whether it was this many life forms of Adesanya ago, this many evolutions of Adesanya ago, it could still happen. And that's Kelvin Gastelum, okay? Kelvin Gastelum could get down Israel Adesanya. I'm doing a lot of hand movements right now because it's interesting that Kelvin Gastelum could beat Israel Adesanya. Not beat him, but take him down. And if Jon Jones can take you down, different stuff than having Kelvin Gastelum on top of you. If Weidman takes you down, it's different stuff than having Kelvin Gastelum on top of you. And if Jon Jones takes you down, it's different than Weidman being on top of you, I would argue. But Jon Jones is very dangerous, and I think that also with the size of Jon Jones, you're talking about a different frame. Like, if this was Israel Adesanya moving up to challenge the 195-pound world champion, different. Very different. Probably the same size, frame-wise, as Adesanya, most likely, or he's a short, stocky guy. I'm thinking of an imaginary light heavyweight world, or cruiserweight, I guess it would be, or super middleweight world champion in the UFC right now. All of those names sound shit. I don't want to see that division. It doesn't have a good name enough. Light heavyweight, middleweight, it sounds like a right progression, you know? But still, the imaginary 195-pound champion, I think that would be an achievable jump up. 10 pounds for Israel Adesanya. He already looks like he's bulked his way into the middleweight division. He could move up. I'd probably pick him. I don't know who that guy is, but maybe let's not talk about an imaginary prediction with a guy who doesn't fucking exist for a minute long in the middle of my fucking video between Adesanya and Jon Jones. But what I'm saying is, this is 2 weight divisions above. Even a jump from 55 to 170 is a dangerous one, and the jump from 170 to 85 is dangerous as well. Whittaker was able to do it, but still, dangerous jump. It's not like those 10-pound different weight divisions. This is 20 pounds. This is a different man. This is a different species, not species of human, but just a different being of human, okay? This is a tall man of Jon Jones' stature that's thicker than Israel Adesanya, that's longer than Israel Adesanya as well. I think Israel Adesanya might have close to the same reach as Jon Jones. I'm not actually too sure. I imagine they're very similar reach-wise, but both of them have got an amazing reach. I feel like Jon Jones would put Israel Adesanya in a position that Alexander Gustafsson in the first Jon Jones fight put Jon Jones in. Jon Jones was a guy in the middleweight division, or the light heavyweight division, that was dominant for so long against the Chael Sonnen, who was a middleweight, Lyoto Machida, who's fought a middleweight, you know, other guys that have fought a middleweight. Shogun Rua is not a big light heavyweight and definitely could make middleweight if he was actually in shape, I would imagine. But, you know, Jon Jones was the guy. Rashad Evans has made middleweight before. These are not big light heavyweight guys that Jon Jones was taking on, and Gustafsson came in and basically gave Jon Jones everything Jon Jones was good at was no longer a massive advantage for him. The reach, Gustafsson also has a good reach. You're very tall, Gustafsson's also very tall and can use good footwork like you. And I think Israel Adesanya would face that with Jon Jones, with just having a guy that's just him, basically, that has great grappling that I think he would definitely go to. However, Israel Adesanya has a very good chance in this fight. He has really caused a lot of shit-talking here. And there's going after dead mums level of shit-talking. Like, there's McGregor saying Khabib's wife is a goat, which is very respectful, the greatest of all time. Come on. What wife would not want to be called that? I think Khabib maybe misread that. McGregor was saying he had the greatest wife of all time, but something got lost in translation, of course. But still, there's that level of trash talking. There's don't you ever talk about my mom level of trash talking when Kevin Lee just suggests that she might be in the audience. That's how Michael Chiesa got angry, for just the idea that his mum might be in the audience watching the event happen. I don't know how he erupted in anger there. But then there's this level of trash talk, which is, I'm trying to annoy you and anger you to the level where you put your heavyweight plans to the side and go for me first, kind of. That's what I'm feeling right now, okay? Because as much as the winner of Whittaker versus Cannonier would be a very worthy contender, it is dwarfed in comparison to the hype that would be behind a Jon Jones versus Israel Adesanya super fight. I'm just being honest with you guys. I think the winner of Whittaker versus Cannonier has well earned their title shot. And you could even argue that Cannonier should have got it when Romero was given the shot. Like, Cannonier beat Jack Hermansson. Hermansson had beaten Jacare Souza. Like, Hermansson was on a roll, and Hermansson's still on a roll, which makes Cannonier look even better because Hermansson just completely destroyed Kelvin Gastelum in the first round with a heel hook. But still, it's a great matchup. I'm looking forward to it. It's not happening. I don't know if it's happening yet, so I don't know if I can look forward to it. But Israel Adesanya's got a good chance. And if he has angered Jon Jones enough with these constant comments, like, your mum's dead, haha. I'm being bullied, stop. I got bullied. Your mum's dead, haha. Oh, stop bullying me. You know, that kind of Israel Adesanya trash talk. If he can go after Jones like that, and maybe this time, I don't know who else is dead in Jon Jones' family, maybe mock them as well, he can get an angry Jon Jones to not only fight him now instead of waiting a bit longer at heavyweight, and maybe the situation isn't the same and the opportunity isn't there anymore, and maybe he potentially loses the potential Jon Jones super fight, but still, not only get the fight early, but also have a chance of Jon Jones, who is just going to want to stand up and test himself against Israel Adesanya and try and beat Adesanya at his own game. Because an angry Jon Jones is an egotistical Jon Jones. Okay, you start pissing Jon Jones off, he'll start to correct his posture. He'll start to rear his chin about. He'll start to not look at you in the eye when he talks to you and start just mocking every response you have. Like, Jon Jones, his anger turns to ego, and that's what funds a lot of his good performances. And if he goes out there and tries to strike with Adesanya, listen, Santos was able to do what he was able to do on one fucking leg. Okay? And if Jon Jones doesn't go out there and get a hold of Adesanya and fucking just hip toss him over and get into side control and rain down elbows in crucifix position, because that could very easily happen, then Jon Jones might stand there and might get leg kicked a couple times, might get hurt a little bit, maybe a couple 1-2s. All of a sudden, it's not so fun. Adesanya's packed on 20 pounds. I can only imagine that some muscle's going to come in there as well. Maybe this time Adesanya brings 2 female breastfeeding equipments, which is also known as a breast. I don't know why I used it in that way, but I don't know why I described it in that way. But still, if he brings 2 of them, there's some danger. But still, he's going to be bulking up. Like, he's a tall guy. He's going to be rangy as well, which is something that Jon Jones has always had problems with. If Dominic Reyes can land rear bolo uppercuts on you, and you have that much of a reach advantage over him, Adesanya can do some more. And I think if Jon Jones doesn't get it to the ground, it could be bad for him. And that's something that a lot of people might, like, oh, you ever question Jon Jones would lose? I watched him lose to Dominic Reyes. Okay? I watched him kind of lose to Santos. I thought he won the Santos fight, though. But a lot of people think that Santos won. You know? And that was on the feet with a guy on one leg. Like, these things can happen. Jon Jones, that aura of invincibility is no longer there, okay? And it's starting to emerge around Adesanya right now, because even the guys that I think are nightmare-style matchups for him, in like Jack Hermansson, I don't really see beating him. Like, still, I would maybe pick Adesanya there, but it's interesting with Jack Hermansson, but like, Adesanya has this sort of, now he's got the power in there, and he's just like fucking lighting people up out of nowhere all of a sudden. There's some dangers. But I think that my official prediction would be Jon Jones goes out there, takes down Adesanya, pushes him against the cage, and just has a bit of a way with him. I think that that would be a great, easy fucking finesse of legacy and money for Jon Jones. Like, he could just go out there and really, like, make this easy. Or he could go out there and make it difficult for himself. If he does that, he's actually so dumb. He's actually so dumb if he goes out there and tries to stand with Adesanya. I don't think he's dumb. But he doesn't shoot takedowns, even on guys where their only chance is to stand up. We've got guys on... I don't understand what Jones does. I don't understand his mindset sometimes. But I think that logically, he would go out there and try and get this to the ground. And I think he would side control, probably get a Kimura on Adesanya in the first round and try and break his arm. I mean, he did... Yeah, there you go. Even my prediction lines up with what Jon Jones said he would do. He's going to rip his arm off or something, I think he would say. I would literally tear your arm off. Yeah, wow, that's funny coincidence then. Yeah, Kimura, I think, would be a good prediction for the fight. And Jon Jones' first round. But Adesanya's dangerous. That 20-pound jump, though. Jones is basically a heavyweight, you know, like... Jon Jones, if he doesn't cut weight, is probably, what, 225, 230? You know? Some heavyweights are that size, and they can get away with it. I think Stipe Miocic is, like, under 240 pounds right now, so... Listen, there's a good chance. Like and subscribe. Thank you for watching. Jon Jones wins, but Adesanya's got a real threat to it now than he did a year ago. That's for damn sure. Like, you've got to give Adesanya respect of how dangerous he really is. Like and subscribe. Click that button up there, and I will see you later.